Well, I think really we have to go back to, there has been a number of failures within the justice system. I mean, when you look at the Crown prosecutors resigning in Labrador, when you look at bungled investigations, we just saw that the Supreme Court case last week. I mean, that's got a substantial cost to the public. When we look at just the issues in the sheriff's office and all the different aspects of justice, we're not doing everything we should to ensure that justice is served properly in this province. And I think it stems from an absolute lack of accountability and leadership right at the top. I think that there's no doubt that the way that this government has treated justice has led to a number of the issues.
Okay, well, before we get into some of the details now, when you talk about this lack of leadership, I mean, has the department been unfairly targeted for cuts?
Well, I think the first thing we have to look at is that, again, you just look at the number of ministers. Even over just the last few years, we've had at least half a dozen ministers in the last little while, and the current one being an unelected minister, which means there's absolutely no scrutiny that we can place on the department in the House of Assembly where it should be. What other successful organizations do you see where you've got such rapid and numerous changes at the highest level? I mean, it's set up for failure. When you keep taking the top person out and putting a new person in, they're not even getting to learn the files and they're getting taken out. We've got caretaker ministers is what it comes down to. And when you have that happen, the issues within justice, the systems, the different departments and aspects within justice, they're not getting the attention that they need. When you look at the cuts, I mean, what we had a couple of years ago, we basically saw just, you need to cut this amount of money. They didn't really pay much attention to where they were cutting it. Didn't consult with anybody, and we saw basically a firestorm created that within 2 days, we've seen government then say, oh, we better bring some people in and figure out what we're going to do here. That just comes down to show that you really didn't talk to anybody in the first place, and you didn't have the leadership to make sure that you made the right changes if changes were necessary.
Now, what was the amount of the cuts? Do you remember the dollar amounts?
I don't have the dollar amounts right here. I think they basically, when government, during that budget session, basically was looking for, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was 3% or 10% across the board, but I know justice itself took some pretty substantial cuts when you look at just the different aspects within. When we look at the sheriff's office was basically gutted out, and we've got a number of different offices there. Like, even look at little things like the public trustee. Still didn't get the workforce that they need to do their job. There's so many different parts. But when you see the fact that after that you saw everybody within the justice system speak out en masse, whether you were a Crown prosecutor or a defense attorney or legal aid or a sheriff's officer, everybody reacted because nobody had really been consulted. And you saw this special committee had to be formed and go back and change those decisions. Well, I mean, couldn't you have talked to these people in the first place? This is the kind, I guess, of lack of oversight that's plagued this department for a number of years. And again, when you've got different people at the top in and out, that's going to lead to it.
Now, do you think we'll see more of this now? Because obviously we're expecting and anticipating a tough budget given the drop in the price of oil.
Well, I think everybody's worried and every department is worried because of the shape that we seem to be in, and this government has led us down this path. What really scares me is I'm not going to be able to ask one single question of the Justice Minister in the House of Assembly when the budget unfolds. Not one. Because we have an unelected Minister of Justice, which means the Minister of Tourism is going to answer my questions on justice. That speaks to it all when you look at it that way. The minister can't speak to bungled investigations. The minister can't speak to the sheriff's office or the Crown's office. We can't ask those questions in the House. So again, I'm very worried about it as we move forward, how this is going to go, and this lack of accountability that's been pervasive within this department.
Okay, Andrew Parsons, thanks for your time this afternoon.